All right. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to our webinar on distressed properties. My name is Monica Rivera. I'm the team leader for Keller Williams Southeast Los Angeles, located in Downey. I'm really excited to be joined by Rich Rector. Rich Rector is the owner here for our office, but also a national coach. He's been through multiple market shifts as well. So definitely an absolute wealth of knowledge. As well as Jorge Mesa of Pacific Coast Title. You know, we talked a little bit about, Jorge and I were talking a little about the breadth of his experience within real estate. And what's so important, Jorge, not only is he a wealth of knowledge in title and in real estate, but he's somebody that's very committed to continual learning and serving in his role with his heart and with compassion. So I'm really excited to have both of them on with me today. Good morning, you guys. So as we get started, right, we wanted to talk a little bit today about distressed properties. And I want to preface this by saying the following. We're going to go through a lot of numbers. We're going to talk a lot about data, about what we're kind of seeing in the market. We're going to talk about what's happening in the economy. How do we then find the data and how do we utilize some of these tools and resources that we have to prospect? And I just want to remind you all that people's lives are hanging in the balance here, right? Is that this is an unprecedented time to be in real estate. And when we look at these numbers and we look at the opportunity, it's just holding in our heads and our hearts that this is a sensitive topic, and we want to be really cognizant and aware of that. And we want to make sure that if this is a lead generation tool or a platform that we want to utilize, and if this is a market that we choose to pursue, that we're doing so with our whole heart and that we're doing so from a place of compassion. So I just kind of want to remind people of that. So why we're talking about more what's happening in the world. So we know that this year has been unlike any other in that we had almost a complete economy shutdown in March. And there was a lot of trickle effects that come from there being a pandemic, including a very high rate of unemployment, which we've seen across the board. Now, we're experiencing almost two markets right now. On one hand, many of you are out there and you're showing a ton of property, right? You have a ton of buyers that are currently in the market, and we're seeing competition like has not been seen in a very, very long time. And this is a combination of interest rates. It's a combination of, in reality, about 72% of home purchases are made by the age group 35 plus, and those that particular age group has a rate of unemployment that is just above the national average, and yet is the lowest rate of unemployment across the board. And so those individuals that have these stable income jobs are taking advantage of the low interest rates, and that's causing an increase of home sales right now. On the other side of that, we have a market where we're experiencing mortgage forbearances in a amount that has never been seen. To put it into perspective, on a census survey that was done, the national average of borrowers that said that they had no confidence that they would be able to make their next payment was 7.5%. Now let's put that into perspective to California, right? And the counties that we serve, it's 9%, right? It's up 9% for Los Angeles and Orange County, and 21% for Riverside and San Bernardino counties, right? 21% is an immense number of individuals that are saying they don't think they can make their payments, right? Now, we know as we look at mortgage forbearances, what a mortgage forbearance is under the COVID CARES Act, right? Under the CARES Act, someone can essentially not pay their mortgage right now as part of this COVID relief. And that is designed to be an up to a 12-month program, but it starts at a 6-month basis, meaning that we have homeowners that have opted to not pay their mortgage. And that number has increased. In fact, a great resource for all of you is going to be, Black Knight's McDash Flash, where they're tracking a lot of this mortgage data. And what we've seen is that these forbearances are rising continuously. They've risen again. Now, let's say that somebody did this in March. They're looking at a 6-month period, and then they can opt for an additional 6-month extension. But the program is designed to be a maximum of 12 months under mortgage forbearance, where they can essentially almost defer these payments. That doesn't mean that they're not going to have payments, right? What it means is that payment amount and the interest is accumulating, right? It's accumulating. So all of a sudden you have somebody that is behind 6 months, behind a year in terms of their mortgage payments. Well, they're in a situation where they are financially distressed, right? Where even once that period of time is over and these moratoriums on foreclosures are lifted, it's going to be very difficult for somebody that's in a situation like that to catch up if they don't have a couple different options in front of them as it relates to, we'll definitely see loan modifications, right? We'll absolutely see some adjustments in that way. And yet there is going to be a segment of the population that unfortunately is put into a position where their only option will be to get out of a bad situation by selling. Right. And the same thing, we're seeing that same thing in the rental market. So I mentioned that we're seeing a lot of home purchases happening right now, and yet that rate of unemployment is disproportionately affecting those that are in industries like retail, like hospitality, like transportation, that are the ones that are experiencing high level of unemployment. Tends to be a bit of a younger age group, and tends to also be the renters. That causes a trickle down effect, right? We've got about 14 billion estimated in unpaid rent in the United States. I'm going to say that again, 14 billion, right, is not a small number. It's 14 billion estimated in unpaid rent in the United States right now. That rent, it's not like someone is all of a sudden going to have that money come February, come March. Right. And so what we're anticipating on that side as well is if you've got these small mom and pop landlords that are working within this field, then they run into a lot of trouble as well, because their tenants are not able to pay the rent. That trickles down to these small mom and pop landlords not being able to pay their mortgage. So I kind of wanted to set a little bit of the stage on that. Rich, would you like to add a bit?
Yeah, and just a couple other quick things too, is a lot of people don't realize that when you're in forbearance, you basically said to the creditors that you're in financial hardships, you can't get a loan, right? Meaning that it's difficult to get a car loan, it's difficult to get additional credit, and you cannot refinance. So the people that are in forbearance, if they hadn't refinanced before that, right, they're not able to take advantage of these interest rates. So when you think about the challenges, you have people that are struggling that needed to go into forbearance, that now it's affecting their ability to borrow, meaning their credit, so to speak, in terms of how the creditors view them. And all of the banks most of the banks are doing something different. So it's not one standard repayment program, meaning they don't just, let's say your payment was $4,000 a month and you have a year's worth of forbearance. They don't just add $48,000 to the end of your loan. Some banks do, but other banks are saying, hey, when you're out of your forbearance, we're going to have you pay, half of that on top of the mortgage payment that you're paying, $4,000 a month. So you're going to need to pay $6,000 until you make it up, right? So there's different payback scenarios that people are, that banks are enforcing, depending on who your lender is. That's going to create even a bigger problem, which is what you're going to go into of how do you get out of this situation when you're already struggling financially. Now your credit is being impacted in terms of how they view you. You can't get a loan, and maybe you're in a bad repayment situation. So those are some of the things that are challenging right now.
Yeah, So it's important to have an understanding of what's happening in the market, because when we look at the information, one of the things that's really important for us to look at is we want to inspect what we're expecting, right? We always want to inspect what we're expecting. And the reason that I say that is the question, and I know Jorge gets this question a lot as well, right? But the question that we get asked almost all the time is, well, what about short sales? Right? Is everybody wants to know if short sales are coming back. And what happens is that for those that have been in the market for many, many years and have experienced multiple market shifts, yes, did we have a major market shift that resulted in a lot of short sales in 2007, 2008, 2009? Absolutely. And what happens is that we want to look at the past, and we almost want to feel like we think history is repeating itself, right? And while markets absolutely do shift, and they do shift regularly, we've experienced multiple shifts throughout our lifetimes, what's really important to know is we have to look at some of the unique circumstances that are surrounding this particular market change. And it's unprecedented. It's never happened before. And yet we've seen home prices continue to rise, including especially, and I'll note, what was unexpected is when we looked in March and April, we did see a home price dip, right? And the assumption at that point was that maybe sales would decrease, and yet they have not, right? Sales have continued to rise. Prices have continued to rise. In fact, what's declined is inventory. The only piece that has gone down, right, has been our inventory, and that has created even more of a supply and demand issue that's caused a continual raise in prices. So short sales is not, although might there be short sales, there may be some, but I want to now kind of reframe that mindset out of we're going into a short sale market. In reality, in the situation that we're in here, there's a lot more individuals that have a high amount of equity. And that's also going to put them into a unique situation, because another piece that's going to be really important to know is when somebody goes into the foreclosure process and they are at the point where they're potentially going to get foreclosed on, the bank or the entity now has leeway to use up to 20% of their equity on bills, right? On legal fees, on the cost of the sale. And they utilize an attorney as part of that process. Now, I don't know about you guys. I don't know many attorneys that charge less than $250, $350 an hour, right? And so they're utilizing that portion of their equity to make those payments. And on addition to that, it becomes very difficult for somebody that's gone through the forbearance process to actually then get access to whatever remaining money is left. So it's important to kind of know a little bit about this before we jump into how do you find the data, and now how do we prospect to this. We'll definitely, I know I see we're kind of already getting a couple questions. I see a question on Kern County and Bakersfield. I'll provide a couple links to articles, as well as with the recording of where you can pull some of that information as well following this, because I don't have that information on hand right now, but definitely we're seeing that continue to rise across the board. What I do want to jump into is I want to pass it on. If there's questions that come up, please do put them in the Q&A, and we will make sure that we have a Q&A segment at the very end. But there's going to be a lot of material that we want to cover on, okay, we know this is a market of the moment that we're going into. Now, how do we utilize this so that we can do our fiduciary duty for the clients? And what I mean by doing our fiduciary duty for the clients is how can we help somebody that is in a bad financial position to get out of a bad situation? How do we identify those people? And then how do we go and pursue those? So I do want to hand it over to my friend Jorge Mesa, so he can share a little bit about how we can pull some of this information.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Absolutely. Is it allowing you?
No, You need to make me a host.
There you go, my friend.
Perfect. Some of you guys already saw this screen, but I love to play it again and again and again because it's not the end of the world. It's just a market that is going to change. And for those guys that are waiting for the short sales, you know what's your biggest problem? Equity. A lot of equity in these properties. There was an agent, or there's an agent at KW Downey, Milton. I don't remember the exact number. I don't know if he can even talk. I don't even know if he's here, but there was a property that he sold. We closed title. And the over asking price was, I think they put like 100,000, I think 120,000 more, removing contingencies and everything. So it was crazy. This market is crazy. I got a number that it's insane. 17%. Remember that number, 17% increase in equity in the last 4 months in LA County. 17%. So that's why if you're waiting for short sales, keep waiting because you're not going to see it on the first, second, and maybe on the third wave, you're going to see some. But in reality, this is going to be a distressed market with equity. So again, guys, it's not the end of the world. My next one that some of you guys already know, I love this screen because I asked everybody, you know what's this? Everybody's telling me it's California having an earthquake, this and that. No, this is what we call an electroencephalogram. Only a neurologist can read this. My point is this: if you want to be the expert on your area, on your field, you need to get trained. You need to learn. You will never stop learning. I'm an old guy. I'm a very old guy, and I just get amazed because every day I'm learning new stuff. I was just talking to Monica a few minutes ago. This market that it's approaching, I don't know if you can hear my voice. I'm excited. I'm excited and I'm sad. I'm sad because some people, they're going to lose their homes. They're going to have to sell their homes. But it's not going to be like the short sales, because on the short sales, that literally they walk with nothing. Right now, they're going to be able to walk with equity, with money. So that's a big plus. So if you want to be the expert on your field, get trained, guys. Get trained all the time. What's the biggest problem we have? Forecasting an economic tsunami as pre-foreclosures rise. Every day I'm seeing more and more. Riverside, I'm seeing a big increase now on numbers. A big increase. So just wait until next month or a few days. What, today is that? The 18th? By the way, today's my wife's birthday. I just remembered. Bam, I need to call her. Sorry, guys. So there's going to be a lot of pre-foreclosures. I'm going to send this to Monica. You guys can read it later, but these numbers are pretty amazing. California unemployment rate, we are at 11.1 right now. And I'm sorry, this is LA County. LA County right now, it's at 11.1. I have it wrong. I put California, but in reality, it's LA County. 11.1 compared to last year, there was a 3.9. Huge difference. And delinquencies, I don't even want to give you the number, but it's around 10.1. That's a huge, huge number, and it's a lot of opportunities for you guys. What's the difference between real estate and the stock market? That's key. You guys need to understand this. Rich, you have years doing this, right? Did you ever remember your house being worth 500,000 and tomorrow it's gonna be worth 100,000? Never, right? That doesn't happen in real estate, guys. Doesn't happen in real estate. Not even in places like Detroit, when 2008 and 9, prices, they dropped to pretty much nothing, but it took time. It's not going to go like the stock that you can have a stock that is worth $100 and tomorrow can be worth $1. So because that increase on equity, that 17% that I'm talking, that's why you're going to see the first, second wave, that there's going to be all standard sales. You remember that subject to bank approval? You can kill it. You're not going to be using that on your marketing because it's not going to be subject to bank approval. The homeowner is going to say yes or no. No more going to the bank and asking the bank for permission to sell the house. So that's the big difference. The stock can drop to $1. Real estate is going to go 500,000 for 50, for 20. It's going to go like this. All right. How late? And this is a tricky question that nobody gets right, not even me. I was very surprised. How late you need to be on your mortgage for your lenders to start the pre-foreclosure process? I was always under the impression it was 3 months. That was me. Yes, Monica, go ahead. I know you can answer.
I see it looks like a couple people are answering in the chat. I see 1 month, some people are paying attention.
That's a month. If you're late a month and 1 day, the lender can start the process of pre-foreclosure in California, being a non-judicial state. California is a non-judicial state. So after a month and 1 day, they can start the process. They don't do it. Remember the good old times when we used to do checks? You guys don't even know what's a check, right? Well, I was always late because I never remembered to pay my mortgage. I was like, oh man, I need to pay. So I was always late. So maybe because Jorge Mesa, the banks don't start the process right away after a month and 1 day. They give you usually 3 months. But if you remember 8, 9, 10, it was 3 to 6. I remember checking properties that they were late 2 years and not even the pre-foreclosure, the first stage was filed, the NOD. So, but if you want to talk about a number, let's say between 3 to 6 months, they're going to give you. Timelines. Everybody knows the timelines. This is getting old, but let's go real fast. NOD, the first stage of the pre-foreclosure, there's 3 months. Second stage is called notice of trustee sale, 21 days. Used to be 25 days. For the old timers on this Zoom call, it used to be 25 days. You guys remember, they changed it to 21 days. Then it goes to the auction. 4 things can happen at the auction. Can get postponed, can be go back to the bank, sold to the bank as an REO, goes back as a real estate owned property, sold to a third party. Me, Rich, and Monica, we go there and we buy properties. We love it, right? It's not that easy, guys. It's not that easy. Be careful. It's a huge mafia, and it's pretty crazy because you can be checking 20 properties. You get there and the 19 got canceled, and the number 20, there's a lot of problems on that one. So be careful if you're going to the trustee sales. You need to know what you're doing, and that's for big boys. That's cash. You don't go there and say, yeah, I'm approved for 450. No, you need to pay cash. Or it can get canceled for multiple reasons. Maybe there was a filing of a BK. Maybe there's so many tricks. I don't want to even give you ideas, but there's so many ways to cancel these trustee sales. So that's the 4 things that happen on the trustee sale. Oops. Sorry, guys. Okay, what's the difference between a non-judicial state and a judicial state? There's different, there's a lot of, it's different between these states. Sorry, somebody's knocking on my door and it's driving me nuts. No. So non-judicial versus a judicial state. In a non-judicial state like California, you see gray, that's California. When you're signing your loan docs, when you're all excited and at the end you're telling your client's signature, well, you're signing, you're giving permission to the lender to foreclose on your property. If you're late, a month and 1 day. Literally, you're signing that on a pre-foreclosure state like California. In a judicial state like New Mexico, Kansas, Oklahoma, the other states, the blue ones, the lender needs to go to court. The lender needs to ask permission to start this process. So usually these states, they take longer. So that's mainly the difference between a non-judicial and a judicial state. LTV, loan to value. Do we have any loan officers from Downey Capital? So I would love to have anybody from Downey Capital giving us a little explanation about loan to value. Loan to value is going to be the key on this market and this industry. And I'm sure there's a lot of great loan officers that they can give you a great explanation that is going to make you very confused. Those formulas are very confused. So I want you to think on loan to value as gaining weight. If you go up, is bad. If you go down, is good. 100%, that's your break-even point. If it goes up, it's not good. If it goes down, it's good. So pretty much that's the way to explain loan to value. If there's any loan officers from Downey Capital, please let me know. Stop me so I can give you few seconds.
I see Luis is on, and then also Miss Valerie is asking if you wouldn't mind showing the 1 month slide one more time.
Yeah. So I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, Luis.
Okay. So the very technical definition of loan to value, or the very mathematical loan to value, is essentially the value of the property divided by what is owed in the property as in the form of a loan. And in the case of a purchase, it's either going to be the the actual sales price of the property divided by the loan. So as you guys know, whenever we have the appraised value or the loan amount divided by the appraised value, that's going to be your loan to value. And one of the things that we as lenders use, of course, is the loan to value to determine what rate, or what the fees are for a particular loan, and what kind of loan they can sign up for. If they're, if they're not at 80% or above, then it's most likely they're going to do an FHA loan. And if it's a conventional loan, it has to be at least 80% loan to value. So that's what we lenders use the loan to value. But in the cases that we're expecting to see in the very near future, this is going to be very important because, as you know, the sea of foreclosures that we anticipate seeing, uh, like Jorge Mesa mentioned, we are seeing that properties still have a lot of equity. So that is pretty much the how loan to value is going to come into play.
So loan to value is huge, guys. Huge, 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 because that's going to be the difference between a short sale and a standard sale. So we have two little houses, literally right here in Downey Avenue. One has an LTV of 50%. There's an NOD file and a trustee sale file on this house on the left, or I don't know, your right, my left, whatever. The one on 50%. Then you have another house across the street with 150% loan to value. That's a short sale. That's a standard sale, right? Who needs to sell faster, low LTV or high LTV? Monica, any?
Who's got some guesses in I see right here, somebody said LTV of 150 needs to sell ASAP.
All right. I don't know who's that, but sorry to tell you, you are wrong. That's not true. Loan to value 50% needs to sell faster. Monica, you explained it at the beginning, so I'm gonna have to do it again one more time, okay? So loan to value, let's put a number. There's $200,000 equity on that house versus the across the street, that house is upside down. There's no money, no equity on that house. So the lender will foreclose faster on this house because there's equity. Can the lender keep that equity? The answer is no. That's against the law. The lender cannot say, oh boy, I'm gonna foreclose and pocket $200,000. But the lender can foreclose and use part of that equity to pay for the trustees. Who's a trustee? A lawyer, court fees and all that. If you wanna know how expensive this could be, a trustee from Wells Fargo makes around $450 an hour. So if you do the math, few months late, 3 months of NOD, 20 months of trustee sale at $450 an hour, that's a lot of money. But thank God there's a law saying that the max they can take is 20%. So what's 20% of 200,000? That's $40,000, right? Do the math, Monica. Please keep that number in mind. $40,000. What's my commission on a house that I'm gonna, as a realtor, a house for 500,000? What's gonna be my commission at 5%?
So I see any answers in the chat box.
I'm not a realtor, so give me, if I have a
25.
house, I'm sorry?
25,000.
45,000, all right.
25.
25, okay. So it's cheaper for me, homeowner, to sell the house with a realtor and not allow the lender to foreclose on my house, because I'm gonna lose more money with the lender foreclosing on my house. Besides, it's gonna affect my credit. It's gonna trigger a lot of other problems. So you guys start seeing why the loan to value, the low loan to value needs to sell faster, because the lender can go after that equity, part of that equity, I'm sorry. And that's not the end of the bad news. Then that money goes to a trust account, sits in that trust account for 10 years. After 10 years, it goes to the state. So you have 10 years to put a claim into that money. You think it's easy to put a claim into that money? Very hard. You're gonna get phone calls mainly from lawyers. And again, thank God, the only thing they can charge is a total of 10%. What's 10% of 160,000? That's another $16,000 to bring your money back. You work very hard for this money, right? That's your legal piggy bank. Well, You just lost 56,000, and I'm going based on a normal $500,000 house. You lost 56,000 through trustees, through the bank, this and that. It doesn't make sense. So your job as a professional is for the homeowner to understand that this is the right time to sell the house. Otherwise, the market is going to be dropping, right? There's going to be your correction. It's going to be dropping. So if you sell right now, you walk with your equity, and who knows, maybe a little bit extra because there's no inventory. We still have a problem with inventory, and we still have great rates. So that's why the low LTV needs to sell faster. It's a standard sale, no subject to bank approval. The sale could be very fast if they get a great lender like Downey Capital that will close like this. And I'm being serious. They're great lenders.
This is so important, you guys, to understand what this looks like for your clients, right? Because what we're not even taking into consideration here, all we're looking at is what is their savings, right, going to be on selling standard sale versus foreclosure. But what we're not taking into account here is what happens when somebody gets a foreclosure, what goes on their record, right? So now it's also damaging their financial reputation, and it impacts their ability now because they have a foreclosure on their credit history, on their record. It's going to impact their ability to essentially do anything else that requires a credit check moving forward, right? It's also going to impact, we're also not taking into consideration now, if this money is sitting in this trust account for up to 10 years, right? Let's say that it takes X amount of years, 5 years, right? We're also not taking into account then the cost of inflation. So we're not just looking at a loss of 56 in this example, but it's a much higher impact that they don't realize, right? That they don't anticipate. And this is extremely important to understand because you want to have this conversation when you're presenting and when you're talking to somebody that's in this position. They are in an emotional space, right? This isn't an easy call of somebody that's raising their hand and saying, I want to sell right now. It's somebody that unfortunately is being forced into sell and may want to, be a little bit more emotional about the process. And so allowing them to understand both sides and what the benefits are of a standard sale versus being pushed into this foreclosure process is going to be extremely, extremely important.
Okay, so the one on the right, low LTV, it's a standard sale, short sale. That's a big difference. That's why for me, if I'm a realtor, if I'm gonna tackle and I wanna learn this market, loan to value will be everything, will be key for me to understand and to be able to get that type of farming to go after these properties. And again, you as a professional, you need to give options to these homeowners. Option number one is maybe refinance the house. Can we call Luis? Can we call Rossi at Downey Capital? Can we call that team? Can we ask if they can refinance? We know the answer, but let's be professional. Let's try to find solutions. We know we cannot refinance the house because they're already late on payments, this and that. So that will be out. Second, let's try to talk to the bank. Can we do a modification on this property? And I'm going to explain why it's going to be very, very hard to do modifications. This is pretty scary. This is coming. I'm not going to mention a name because he's a trustee at Wells Fargo. And he told me, you are crazy if you think that they're going to keep extending these forgiveness programs and this and that. And he told me, tell me what banks like, lenders. And my answer was money. And he goes, no, we like loans. We want to do new loans. We don't want to give you a loan and you sit on that loan for 30 years. The banks don't want that. And because all the equity on these properties, the banks are not going to lose anything. They're going to create new loans. Second question, he goes, tell me what California needs. And I was confused. When he said that to me, I was like, I don't know what we need. He goes, money. This state is broke. This state needs money. They want the economy to start moving. What better way to do it? Creating more and more property taxes, supplemental taxes. because there's a lot of money sitting there that California understands. If they open this market and allow these people to sell their houses and no more little band-aids, it's going to create a lot of money on property taxes, transfer tax, supplemental taxes. And I'm like, I didn't really understood that well until I start thinking. I go, yeah, this guy's right. So he was telling me, you think we're going to start doing modifications like candies? You're crazy. Because on a modification, you need to prove that you have a job and you can pay this much. And a lot of these homeowners, they don't have a job anymore. On a short sale, it's different. On a short sale, you need to prove that you don't have a job, that there's hardship, and you can continue paying. That's why you want a short sale. Because on this case, if you're sitting on equity, these banks, they want that equity. The government, they want that equity to go to you because they know you're going to go and spend money too. And you're going to move the economy with that. So it was pretty sad what he was telling me, but yeah, he is absolutely right. So loan to value, it's key for you guys to understand. I'm going to go to the next one, auctions. If you're going to go to the auction, be careful. I don't think there's going to be a lot of auctions. But if you're planning to go, you need to check 4 things. You need to check the index. What's the index? Who's pushing the foreclosure? The first, the second, and HOA, private money. You need to know that. You need to check the taxes because you're responsible for the taxes. You need to check the HERO program. HERO programs are pretty smart people. Whoever created a HERO program, you know what they put a HERO program? On the taxes. So even if they foreclose on the house, you're responsible for HERO programs. You still need to pay that. And mechanic liens. So be careful going to the auctions. I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement over there. But if you're planning to go one day, this is the 4 things you need to check. Where you can check this, it's with your title rep. Contact your title rep and he can give you all this information. Farming, this is what we want to learn, right? Farming, where can we get this farming? So I'm going to do a little disclaimer because I don't want to get in trouble. Title companies, we cannot provide this type of farming. It's illegal for title companies. Senate Bill 133 doesn't allow title companies to give you this. This is done through our sister companies, so our other vendors. In this case, is Downey Exterminators. I don't know if Javier is on the call, but that Downey Exterminators, Javier Munoz, it's a great title termite company. Please make sure that you try to help Javi on your next deal. So thanks to Javi, we have access to farming, this type of farming. Some of you guys are getting this farming every morning. If you're not getting this farming, make sure that you email Monica and she can put you on that list. That farming will go out every morning from Monday to Monday, 7 days a week. You receive NODs, trustee sales, expires, and for sale by owners. Don't base your next 20 days or 20-something days on this because there's not a lot of movement right now. But starting next month, you're going to start seeing a lot of conventional loans going into pre-foreclosure. And February, you're going to start seeing FHA loans going into pre-foreclosure too. So by March, there's going to be a lot of business for you guys. So first type of farming that you can get is called notice of delinquency. The notice of delinquency, I love it. They're before NOD, before trustee sale. You know there's already a problem on the house. So it's going to be here on top. You're going to be able to see notice of delinquency. It's not on red. It's going to be on black. I did a training the other day, and this guy got the farming, and he called me and said, oh, the farming that I'm getting is different. I don't see the red and the little arrows. That's just for this training, okay? In reality, it's going to be all black. So this file was recorded 8/20/20. Check who's pushing this delinquency. An HOA. An HOA is pushing the foreclosure. Why? Do you guys remember in 2008, 9, 10, any HOA pushing for pre-foreclosures, taking these properties to the first stage, the NOD and the trustee sale? No. You know why? Because the equity that we have on these properties, now everybody's going to get paid. The first, the second, the HOA, private money. Everybody will get paid. So don't be surprised if you start seeing a lot of HOAs starting the process. It costs money to start the pre-foreclosure process. So before, it was all short sales, upside down, there was no money, right? So why I'm going to start a process where I'm not going to get paid? The only one who's going to get paid was the first. Now, the second will get paid. HOAs, they get paid. So don't be surprised seeing HOAs pushing these properties to the pre-foreclosure. Okay, so this is the information that you get. These homeowners behind 4,067. Here is the site address, and this is the mailing address. Same address, so we know it's owner occupied. It's not an investment property. Detail of the property. We have any kids on the call? Can somebody tell me what's a Thomas guide? That was my GPS system of I still have it on my trunk. Okay, if one day you want to see what's a Thomas guide, just go to my trunk. I have a San Bernardino, Riverside. You still have it, Monica?
That's how I learned. I started with the Thomas guide.
Yeah,
Don't sleep on it. I started with the Thomas guide.
So that's my
going
GPS.
to home auctions.
I still have mine. So this is one type of farming that you can get every morning, notice of delinquency. And yeah, Javier Munoz can go back to give you, let's say, Riverside notice of delinquency for the last 6 months. You can get that. You can get that too, that type of farming too. Okay, let's go to the next one. It's notice of default, the first stage of the pre-foreclosure, notice of default. We know you have 3 months to fix your problem. All right. So question, Monica, this Younes Nabilsi has a private number. Here's the number. Can you call a private number when you're in notice of default?
It becomes and this is going to be important, you guys. You always want to make sure that you are following the do not call list. And when we have, so make sure to go by that, right? And we know that we have information that becomes public information as part of the notice of default.
As soon as you become a notice of default filing, your public record, there's no privacy anymore. That's California being a non-judicial state. So that's why it's so key for you guys to understand that California is non-judicial.
And still follow your DNC. Record. Still follow your DNC guidelines, especially if you have questions internally, you can always ask us. If you are a guest on this call, please refer to your broker.
Yeah, so as soon as you hit NOD, you become a public record. Banks are releasing this information, so you become a public record. The email that you see here, moderna@gmail.com, it's public. The phone is public. This is just, I don't want to advise anybody. This is just me. But if I'm calling a private number that is not private anymore and the homeowner is pretty upset, I would just apologize and don't give this guy a class on a non-judicial state versus judicial state, because he's just going to create a bigger enemy because he just found out that he's not going to be on the public, on the do not call this anymore. So check who's pushing the foreclosure on this one. A private individual, private money, 18,726. And guys, check this. Don't get confused with 1, 2, 3. You know that 3, the number 3 loan is the first loan. You go always based on the instrument number. Instrument numbers, they start with the year 2006. 2006. This is 2019. And if you see here the last digit, 66, this is the first loan. 67, that's the second loan. So don't get fooled by 1, 2, 3. That doesn't mean that this is the first loan. That means that that's the one pushing this property into the notice of default. And it's a private money for $18,000. Now they're delinquent 20,000. You can see it right here, 20,000, because interest and penalties. So every day it's gonna grow and grow and grow. Next one, oops. I get confused with my mouse. Next one is the famous notice of trustee sale. Notice of sale. If you're an old timer, we used to call that notice of sale. Now they call notice of trustee sale. What's the difference between an NOD and a trustee sale? Pretty much the time, 3 months, 21 days on this one. And on this one, you already have a place. You're gonna see it here, sales information. Place, a time, and a minimum bid. Place, locations, Pomona Civic Center. Time, 10:30. Minimum bid, $1,090,000. Check this. This is Woodland Hills, 2nd Street, and he lives in Dolorosa Street, Woodland Hills. That's an irony. You guys don't speak Spanish. You don't know what's Dolorosa, and that means pain. So this is an absentee owner. Those records are still good. Those absentee owners, they're working real good right now. Right now, if you go up to absentee owners, you're gonna have a lot of luck. It's not about luck. You're gonna have a lot of success. Sorry, I hate to use luck. I don't base anything on luck. So this is an absentee owner and he's losing his house. Check this. Here's the LTV, loan to value. 150 for 54%. What's that? That's a short sale. There's no money, there's no equity on this property. So this is short sale. Let me minimize. All right, so this right here, defaulted loan information as 2/25/2020, 2020. This is huge, guys. If you use this in the right way, you can have a lot of success. Also, you can have a lot of angry people. But guess what? You are a professional. It's your job to change that anger into, listen to me. I am the expert and I'm here to help you. Let's see if we can save your house. Everybody wants to hear that. Save your house. You're not gonna lie. You're just gonna see if there's any way this homeowner, George Herman, can save his house. We talk about refinance a house. Luis from Downey Capital say, no way, we can't. Okay, you're gonna give options. See if we can save the house. And at the end, the only option for George is to sell the house, to move on. So if you go door knocking, cold calling, whatever you do, I don't say go door knocking because you can right now, it's not safe. But let's pretend that I'm gonna door knock and I'm gonna approach Mr. George and I'm gonna say, George, my name is Jorge Mesa from Keller Williams Downey. I got this information from the bank. Are you lying? No, you're not lying because the banks are releasing this information. I got this information from the bank. They want me to try to help you see if we can save your house. They told me that you're behind $64,296. Right there, George is gonna get upset. How do you know that? You know a lot of information on me. So don't be surprised if that anger starts like triggering. They told me that your monthly payment is around $2,500, $2,572. You stop paying on June 1st, 2018. You start giving detailed information about the problem they have. Versus the agent who was here this morning, George, door knocking, saying, hey, there's options. Don't ruin your credit. My friend, my credit's already ruined. That's why my car is parked 3 blocks from here. I think that's the wrong approach. The right approach is giving this type of information, detailed information about the problem, that you're gonna create that perception. Perception is, you know the bank, you work with the bank, you have the connection with the bank. Again, you're not lying because these records, they're released by the banks. So you're not lying. You have the contact through these systems. So this is Washington Mutual Loan. It's the one for closing, and it's a loan for 840. This is a notice of trustee sale, the last stage of this. Javier Munoz from Downey Exterminators, he sends also through this farming. The last type of farming that he sends is this one that I don't like. It's a lease pendant. But unfortunately, that's part of the package. It goes with this farming. Lease pendant. Again, I'm gonna give this to Monica, so put your email so she can send you this in case you wanna see it. A lease pendant, there's 2 lawyers fighting for the property. I put here a little explanation. Lease pendant is an official public notice that the property has a pending lawsuit or claim attached to the property. Who can remove a lease pendant? Don't call your title rep. We cannot do anything. Don't call your broker. They cannot do anything. Only the court system, only a judge can remove the lease pendant. As soon as it's filed, now it's the judge. Can you sell a property if it's in a lease pendant? Anybody? That's a tricky question. Can you sell a property in a lease pendant? Nobody?
I see a couple no's.
Cynthia Delgado, no. Smart. Luis Mendoza, no. Well, sorry to tell you guys, yes. If you follow my trainings, I say no most of the time, but the reality is yes. But guess what? It needs to be approved by the judge. So I don't ever recall seeing one, to tell you the truth, because we don't deal a lot with these lease pendants. Usually they don't. But yeah, if you want to go to court and ask permission to the judge to sell the property, he can grant that motion, and the property will be for sale and they can sell it. Let me give you the bad news. Everything goes to the trust account, the proceeds, everything, including your commission as a realtor. So be careful with that, because we have a deal right now that has been on a lease pendant for 3 years. 3 years of lease pendant, and the agent keeps trying, but it's not up to the title or to your broker or to anybody. It's just the judge can make that call. So I always say, if you see a lease pendant, don't get attached to a lease pendant. Just walk away, or just keep it at don't put a lot of effort into the lease payment. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's going to be a lot of properties on the market. It's going to be a lot of opportunities. So what you're going to marry one and spend a lot of time dealing with lawyers, this and that, maybe put on the side, just once in a while, check on that one. But if you see lease pending, don't marry that lease pending. I don't want to go to this next slide because this is pretty depressing. So I'm going to avoid this one. Guys, the only thing I want to say is let's all be sensitive. Monica, you already said it. I posted on Facebook the other day. I never do videos. I hate to do videos because when I'm talking, I don't hear my accent, right? But when I watch my video, I'm like, wow, I have a heavy accent. That's pretty scary. All these years and I still have an accent. But and I'm gonna share something very, very personal. I was watching the news that day about kids going to bed hungry. But the same day, before that, I watched that, I got a call from my own sister telling me that she had nothing to eat, nothing. She told me I'm losing my car. I don't have no money. She put all her savings into trying to save her school, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So it's great to be able to make a lot of money in this industry. Don't feel bad about making money in this industry. Don't feel ashamed. We're blessed. Feel blessed. And this is not about religion. It's not about that. It's about being sensitive on these type of markets. Let's be sensitive. One time I was doing a training, and this is on the short sale time, and there was a property with a lot of equity, and they were losing the house. And this agent called the homeowner stupid. And they're stupid, and I got so offended, so insulted that literally I stopped the training. Because you need to be sensitive. Let's make money, but at the same time, let's be sensitive and let's try to help people. And I think that's the culture for KW and a lot of other agencies in the area. All right. Any questions? Sorry. Can hear you.
It's so important that we take that into consideration and that we look at this. Before we open it up for question, there's one more thing that I want to show you guys in terms of, let me get my screen shared really quickly.
While you're doing that, Monica, just to reiterate what Jorge was saying, and that is, this situation is happening. We can't stop it. And if you take the position that you're a consultant and you're there to help, there's been some questions in the chat about, the people are generally hostile and mad, and sure they are. So, your ability to communicate that you truly are there to help them, especially if they have equity, time's not their friend, right? As Jorge was talking about, with all these fees continuing to add up. So your job is just to communicate their options with them and getting them to recognize that they do have options. And the quicker that they determine what options they want to choose and what road they want to go down, the more money that they're going to save and the better position they're going to be in. And if they choose not to do anything because they're in denial and so forth, then at least you did the best that you could in trying to help somebody. And I think that's the way you need to look at all this and think about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are you seeing the 30-day smart plan page? Perfect. Okay, so I want to go over this really quickly. Now, if you are with Keller Williams, this will be available within the Smart Plan library, so you can utilize it to put your contacts on it. If you're not, I want you to keep in mind that you can do this manually as well. Just take into consideration, some of the items and understand that it's a process to get in contact with some of the clients. So essentially, let's say that you get X amount of notice of default properties coming in, given the numbers are a little bit lower now. So I want to be fully transparent about that. Where we're probably going to see those numbers begin to increase is going to be post-February, when our foreclosure moratoriums and eviction moratoriums are lifted. So long as there's not any adjustment, Either way, we'll probably see a lot of this increase in March because that ends our the 12-month period, right? For those that kind of started their forbearances in March. So what it's going to have, there's an initial, we want to send an NOD letter, the copy of what that letter looks like. There's a template that's available here. This can be edited. So if it's not a short sale, right, you want to make sure that you're looking at that loan to value ratio and you're making those adjustments. But here's an actual letter that you can send out to the client, and it's linked as well. You're going to want to go ahead and make a call, right? There's going to be an initial call, and we want to use a special script that is a pre-foreclosure and loss mitigation script. This was actually a script that we're using that was provided to us by the #1 REO agent in the nation, right? She knows a thing about foreclosures and about this pre-foreclosure process and loss mitigation. So you can see here, it's already going according to county records or according to bank records, right? Your bank has become the foreclosure process. Foreclosure can be confusing. We want to know you have options. Have you spoken with the real estate agency, right? Have you determined whether or not you want to try and sell your home, or are you bringing your mortgage current and remaining in your home, right? If the answer is yes, and they're bringing their mortgage current, great. We may follow up with them later if things change, right? But we also want to help them. We want to, again, reassure them that they're not in this alone, right? Because again, can be an emotional process. So this script is designed to also, let them know that you are aware of what they're going through and helping them to make sense through that process. It's going to give them, what attempts they've had. It's got a couple of questions in here. So this is going to be a really powerful script that's available for you. Of course, there's going to be some delays, right? If they're not answering, if you're not able to get through with them, there are some automated text messages that are going to be in here as well. We'll have some links for some postcards if you want to do any postcards as well. And then a couple other follow-ups that are incorporated in here. There's a couple other scripts. I also want to show you guys this due diligence sheet. This is really important, right? Is as you're consulting with the client, there's going to be a lot of information, and you want to make sure that you're collecting that you're making a note of it, that you're tracking with the client and going over these things with them, right? So it's going to have mortgage information on here, knowing what kind of back loan it is, kind of all of that information that's going to be really important for it as well. So this is also going to be available as part of that SMART plan. And then the last piece, there's a couple letters. This is another example of a letter that can be sent out as well, right? And again, you're going to customize these things. So it's going to be linked in. This SMART plan will be available in the SMART plan library next week. I will post with the recording so you know exactly what to search so that you can add this into your command as well, right? And it's going to give you that follow-up process. The reason I wanted to share that, right, is when we're looking at this process and we're working with the clients, it's not just one call, right? It's not just one touch. It's not just, hey, they're going to all of a sudden say, yes, I want to sell. This is a process because they're in a very unique situation where they need to potentially sell. And like one of the questions that we got, I think that was you, Cynthia, I am going to be posting as well a couple of items that are objection handlers for this, but we always need to go back to really being able to give them the information around what happens if they get forced into a foreclosure versus what happens in a standard sale, right? That's why we went over that first. It's because even as we go through these different scripts, even as we go through, the different letters, it's all about presenting ourselves as the resource of choice for them. I do see a couple questions that I want to make sure we get to. Jorge, I think one of them was for you. We had one, the bank can charge 20% of the equity or appraised value of the home.
Okay, so when they foreclose on the house, by law, the max they can take from that equity is 20%. So it doesn't mean that it's gonna be 20%, but I still don't believe that they're gonna be that nice sale. I'm gonna charge you only 5%. That's why I said the trustee from Wells Fargo, and usually that's how much they make is $150 an hour. So if you do 3 months and 21 days plus the late period, a lot of money. So there's a very good chance it's going to be around 20% of the equity that they're going to take from that. Somebody also, there's another question from Andrea. The C on that slide on the farming means that it's verified, certified that that's the one pushing the foreclosure. And that's key. You need to know if it's the first, like I said, the second. The system was created for investors. So investors, when they go to the trustee sale, they needed to know who's the one pushing the foreclosure. So this system is telling in advance who's pushing the pre-foreclosure. And we keep using that term foreclosure. In reality, it's pre-foreclosure. Foreclosure is when they foreclose on the property. But we use that foreclosure all the time that it's here now, sorry. It's called pre-foreclosure.
A couple other pieces that we have in here. What happens to the lease pending if it is approved by the court? Is it paid off? I don't, we want to shy away as much as possible from the lease pending, right? That's a very, it's a very complicated process as well. I see the script. So yes, all of those pieces are going to be part of that smart plan. I will share a couple of them that we have for the drive as well. Do we email the letter or mail it after call? Do we have to bring all cash certified checks to auction? So emailing the letter or mailing it, both, right? Both. If you have their contact information, here's the thing. Somebody may respond by email. Somebody might respond by text message. Somebody might respond because they're getting the mail in the bank, right? When we look at a plan like that one, there's going to be a lot of different touch components that are part of it. It's going to include a mailed letter, right? It's going to include a follow-up phone call. It's going to include some pre-written emails that you need to customize per client, right? It's going to include some automated text messages that you send out. Those are going to be really important because we want to make sure that you're touching them as much as possible, the same way we touch our database, right? The same way we do any type of marketing is the more touches that we have to be the first person they think of. That's a secret in real estate, right? Is that we have to be the first person somebody thinks of when they think real estate. In this pre-foreclosure process, in the distressed property process, we have to be the first person that they think of as their solution.
Right? Can I say something about touches?
Yes.
Okay, touches are key. That's your business. That's my business. As a title rep, I need to do touches. I need to touch people in multiple ways. And I'm not selling KW, but you guys have an amazing platform to do that. But I want you to remember one thing, Monica. Not every single touch is going to be a good one. And I always use the example, if I go and I touch a lady across the street, what will happen? She will get very upset with me. My wife will get very upset with me. So not every single touch is going to be a good one. I'm not saying go and touch people outside of your office, but what I'm saying is don't give up. Don't get that here to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. There's going to be angry people. There's going to be bad touches. But remember, and this is pretty cheesy to say, it's a numbers game. Numbers game.
It's that consistency, right? And I'll share with you guys, I don't know if you can think of a time that you've ever been in a situation where you've had a fierce conversation with somebody where it felt like it wasn't going well and that you were open and honest because you were coming from the heart on how you wanted to help them and they didn't take it well, right? And yet a month later or a couple hours later or whenever later, they said, you know what? I know you said that because you cared about me. That is what we're doing in this situation. Is I'm not going to say that distressed properties are the easiest to go after. They're not, right? People are emotional about this. They're losing their home. And we need to be extremely cognizant of that. And you have to lead with compassion, right? You have to lead with your heart. This is not a hard sell. It's a heart sell. Our fiduciary duty to our clients in real estate in an up market, right? In an up market, our fiduciary duty is around being able to help our clients to create multi-generational wealth. That's what we do in real estate, right? And yet when we're in a down market like this and they're being forced in a position to sell their home, what we're doing is helping them to protect their financial reputation. What we're doing is we're helping them so that they're not in a situation where they're walking away empty-handed or worse underwater, right? And we don't want them to all of a sudden be locked out of their property, completely lose their home, to have a foreclosure on their record, to walk away with money sitting in a trust account and not much at that they're not going to have access to, right? We want to be able to have them walk away with options, with some type of a solution. So yes, are there some in denial? Absolutely. That's why there's consistency and multiple touches, right? That's why there's consistency and multiple touches. I know we went a little bit over, guys. A couple things on the slides. Yes, we will make sure I put my contact information within the chat box as well. If there's questions that you have for myself, for Jorge, for Rich, definitely a big thank you to Javier from Downey Termite for really being able to give us the opportunity to provide this type of information for our associates. We appreciate that so much. The SMART plan, I will send a message out for our KW associates. That SMART plan will be accessible in your library. You can literally add it to command so that as you have that contact every day, it's giving you, hey, send this out. And the emails and the emails specifically and the text messages will be automated, meaning that they will go out as soon as you turn on that plan based on the delays, whether you're setting them or not. But you will have to customize the letters. And of course, we cannot make the phone call for you, right? So those things are going to be important as well. With that, I hope this was helpful for everyone. A big thank you to Rich and to Jorge. Remember, guys, if I don't have a chance to see you before then, I hope you all have a happy holiday, a safe holiday, and remember that there's a lot of people struggling out there right now, and we definitely want to make sure that we are counting our blessings and that we are coming from contribution and from service and not just looking at the commissions, right? This is about helping as many people as we can, and this is the community or one of the communities that is needing help very, very soon. Thank you. You guys all have a blessed day.